People are acting like Supergirl is the worst comic book movie of all time. You read reviews and comments online and you look at the numbers and you'd think this film had killed your mother and kicked your dog down the stairs. And I'm so sorry, but can we all calm down? This isn't even close to being the worst comic book movie or the worst DC movie. Hell, it's not even the worst movie with Supergirl as a main character. In that case, it's easily the best. I think there are tons of reasons why people are hating on this film so very heavily, and it's all blowing what is essentially a mediocre comic book movie way out of proportion. And that's the bottom line, folks. Supergirl is fine. It's a decent enough film, and you're all being a bit childish about it.
Yeah, it's overkill. I think it's just overkill to say that this movie is just the worst movie of this year or worst movie of all time. I think it's very nitpicky, all the comments about the film, especially with one controversial choice, which is the soundtrack. But I think that hate overshadows what the movie is trying to do. And I think it's a good movie. I think there's some strong choices that they've made. I haven't read the comic, but I've heard that there's lots of changes. It was going to be called Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. That was supposed to be the original title, but that was changed. They wanted to go for a different direction. I think that's also the other bit as well, where people thought this movie was going to go to the comic book direction. Maybe that's the other part of the hate, but it's just mind-blowing.
This is the Out of Time Film Podcast, where your hosts Tom and John discuss everything from blockbuster films to TV and games like there's no tomorrow.
I think the comic is a good place to start because that's how they announced this film. We're adapting Woman of Tomorrow, written by Tom King, illustrated by Bilky Everly. And this film does follow the bare bones of that story. We meet Ruthie, whose family is killed by Krem of the Yellow Hills. She goes on revenge. Her and Supergirl end up going on a journey to find Krem. And pretty much that's where the similarities start and end. The film has a very different tone. Visually, it's massively different. The character arcs are different. The ending is different. And I think that's all okay. I mean, as you said, they renamed it. And I think that's good. There are a lot of people who are complaining, why isn't it more like the comic? And I'm like, yeah, okay, I understand. But since when have comic book movies faithfully adapted their comics? And should they even do that? I don't know. Because you're surely bound to be disappointed.
I think it's genuinely hard to adapt something from a comic to make it brand new. You don't want something to have the one-to-one recreation because that would be boring. You don't want something to be the exact same.
I think that the comic wouldn't work for the darkness they're going for in this movie, and I am glad that they decided to go all out in the kind of fucked up nature of this subject matter. Maybe they could have even gone darker with it, I don't know. And I'm sure they could repurpose a lot of that stuff from Woman of Tomorrow down the line.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that this is coming from Superman, which is almost a year ago. And it's a intriguing continuation. It's building up the world for the DCU, like space-wise. I think there's some really cool practical design with some of the aliens, and it all felt very Mad Max. Hideo Kojima said something about the film being like Mad Max as well. We all love Kojima. But yeah, there was a lot of flair to it.
I love that the genre is so different to Superman. It's metal, it's grimy, it's punk. I think it's all great. It all looks fantastic. There's a lot of lovely practicality and on-location shooting. There's literally one scene outside the Fortress of Solitude. You didn't do it on a green screen. They literally went to the location just for that one scene. I think that's just so great.
I think what it could have done is lean more towards what else is there in space. That movie lacked a lot of space.
Yeah, I agree. And there are moments where I think, oh no, you're moving on too fast here. So there's a moment where Supergirl gets Ruthie this spacesuit so she can survive in space. And then after we get it, we then cut to them landing on the next planet. And I thought, no, this is a perfect opportunity for Ruthie, somebody who has never really experienced space or flight, to experience it. Wouldn't that be such a beautiful scene of Supergirl, who is just a dickhead? She's mean, she's rude, and she hasn't been kind to Ruthie so far. And Ruthie is traumatized, she's grief-stricken, and I think it would be a great moment of joy for Ruthie, for Supergirl to be like, okay, hold on, and Ruthie's like, what? And then they fly up together and we get to see a little bit more of the cosmos, the beauty of it, before we move into this kind of dead galaxy. I think that would have been a really nice moment. A big issue of surrounding this film is the edit. I think the edit chops it up too much. It's not the longest film ever, and I think it could have done with an extra maybe 25 minutes to expand. we could have explored a little bit more just through simple scenes. So apparently there was a fair amount cut.
Yes.
We have a couple of details. So film critic Dan Marcus said that he saw an earlier cut and what it contained was an alternate opening, more Krypton, and much more with Krem. So scenes that delved into his past.
Right.
So apparently he was abused, which he thought made him stronger. And also he threatened to make Ruthie his wife. Krem's a disgusting, pedophilic asshole as it is, but I think seeing those extra scenes would have added a lot to him since he doesn't have a lot of depth as it stands.
When you look at this version of the film, you are seeing Krem as this one-dimensional villain who is awful. He is absolutely awful, but you don't really get to understand the character, what his intentions are, even though his intentions are just borderline insanity. That's some of the things that you do get to see in the film where he randomly kills with his family. He also kills another family. He just wants to make wives. There was the Mad Max influence with Morton Joe. He is also kind of like that archetype.
Yeah. The film in general is very, very well cast. Millie Alcock as Supergirl is incredible. She has this vulnerability and this trauma. It's such a great contrast to Superman because she is striving for good despite everything that she's been through. There's a really great line. We get some flashbacks in this and her mum says, I need you to promise me to be good. You don't have to be kind. You don't have to be nice. You just need to be good. And I think that's so great. And there are lines that we hear in the trailer as well. Superman sees the good in everyone and I see the truth. I just think that it's brilliant. And her arc of feeling like she doesn't have a home and feeling displaced after losing Krypton and losing Argo City. I've seen this film twice. And the second time round, it made me weirdly emotional watching that transition and to see her find a home and to be able to say, okay, I'm going to stop doing all this drinking and partying, which is kind of how we meet her. And I'm going to try and find that good that Clark is encouraging.
It's interesting for this movie to go for this direction for Supergirl to overcome that trauma and that guilt as well to leave Argo. I love the Krypton flashbacks in this movie. I think that really strengthened Supergirl's character, like how she went through so many changes. And the score in that flashback is just so heartbreaking with the synths. Claudia-san, you absolutely cooked. I think that is just another highlight for the movie for me. The movie does kind of struggle with some of the tender moments, but I think the whole Krypton scene, I think that also really highlighted how Supergirl was going through a lot and then going to a different planet is really heartbreaking for her because she's trying to find identity and Clark trying to comfort her as well, even though Clark has lived on Earth for a long time. I think that is so impactful to see that all the way through.
Yeah, we get a good amount of Superman as well. It's not a fleeting cameo.
Or being like a Deus Ex Machina, like he goes in to save Kara.
Yes.
No, it's Kara's film.
It is, yeah. In fact, we don't have some of those conventional tropes. There's no love interest. There's no man who can save the day. And the thing about Clark is that very clearly he doesn't really know how to connect with Supergirl. Like when Kara arrived, they can't even communicate. And so he's just kind of saying all this stuff. And David Corenswet is so good as Superman. He's so charming and delightful. And all of that is just like, yes, I'm so happy that we're doing more of this. But it is really difficult to watch the two struggle. The scene at the end when they're having a heart-to-heart and so clearly there's a lot of work to be done in their relationship, but Clark simply saying, I'm happy, is a beautiful thing. And the music in that moment as well is so great because it's like using the Superman theme, but really subtly.
Yes.
And I think it's so amazing. I will be listening to this score again. I think Supergirl's theme is great. There is a lot of music as well. And we do get this idea that when Supergirl's powers kick in, she uses music as a way to kind of shut out the rest of the world. Brilliant. Great. I love that. However, there is a lot of soundtrack in this film.
There's a lot of soundtrack.
Yeah, a little bit too much, I would say. I mean, obviously it's going for that Guardians of the Galaxy vibe, and I don't necessarily think it works entirely. But also, it's not dreadful. There's a particular needle drop at the end in the final fight scene that people are saying is like the worst needle drop ever.
I was anticipating to hear the worst needle drop of all time. At first, I wasn't too sure with it, but then I'm like, yeah, I think it just works well with the message of the film. And then people are just forgetting about the other worst needle drops. Suicide Squad. Look at that film. It's not good. It's not a good film. And they play some of the most random needle drops of all time.
Yes.
That monstrosity that we have, not in this room right now because I don't have the Blu-ray.
I do.
Will I ever?
I do. It's up there.
Okay, Tom has.
It's behind me.
It's speaking to him like played movie.
It's like the Green Goblin mask.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. Come back to watch me.
Yeah.
So it's mind blowing. So please, if you think this is the worst needle job of all time, this is absolutely nothing compared to that.
And yeah, I would have preferred that moment to be scored, but I also think it does work. Like, it has a purpose in the narrative. It's a song talking about, I think the lyrics are literally, it's going to take some time, but everything's going to be all right. And that is exactly what Ruthie needs to hear. And that is exactly what Supergirl, in many ways, also needs to hear. And so to see Supergirl just being an absolute badass and saving Ruthie in this kind of slow motion moment, I thought it was really great. I mean, yeah, it's a bit cringy, it's a bit cheesy, but it's got heart, it's got soul. And that kind of fits well into Ruthie's arc as well, which is similarly overcoming grief and realizing that your anger isn't going to go away through an act of revenge, but you can nurture yourself and find happiness, keep your pure soul. I think Eve Ridley as well, I think she's great as Ruthie. I think her trying to be intimidating and adult works really well as a contrast to Supergirl, but also the tender moments work really well as well. There's a moment when Ruthie says, "Do you ever stop being angry?" And Supergirl just says, "Any day now." And I just think that's perfect because, yeah, you would just keep on being angry. It doesn't matter if you kill 1,000 people. That's not going to help you inside. God damn it, that hit me so hard the second time round. Like, first time round, I think I was so wrapped up in the comic book differences that second time seeing it, I was just like, fuck.
Yeah. Another character in the movie, Lobo, unexpectedly brought a smile to my face because I was like, oh, that's actually really cool. With Jason Momoa, who was Aquaman, he is a much better fit for Lobo because I feel like you do get to see more of him just being this crazy god, having so much fun. He is an anti-hero, but then he's kind of like the villain as well. He's a fun, interesting character. I would love to see a bit more connection between Lobo and Supergirl, like what the relationship is. He says happy birthday to her.
Yes. He also emphasizes the word super. You've been super annoying. And I was
Yes.
wondering, what does he know?
She says as well, he's destroyed his own planet. He's done countless crazy things. I'm intrigued to know about that. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people have quite rightly, I think, pointed out that Lobo doesn't really have much of a stake in this film's plot, and he doesn't. But I think what we're doing here is we are setting up Lobo for the future. There is a moment at the end, at the climax of the film, without spoiling it yet, what Supergirl does, she does it, and then we cut back to Lobo watching her do it. And a lot of people have been like, you've ruined the tension. I don't think that does ruin the tension. I think that's a point of intrigue. It's indicating that there's going to be more to this story between Lobo and Supergirl. In that moment, Lobo is proud of Supergirl. What are the similarities between them, actually? I agree. I think Jason Momoa is really good. Aquaman kind of demanded him to be a little bit more sincere than I think he wanted to be, you know, especially in The Lost Kingdom. He's just kind of having a fun time.
At the end, he's like,
yeah,
I'm out. Woo!
Yeah, it's like, yeah! Lobo fits that much, much more. I like how he is also making things a little bit more difficult during some of the action set pieces. There's actually a lot of great action, and we kind of escalate throughout. So we start by seeing Kara fighting drunk on a red sun planet, and she still does a decent job even without her powers. And then we have a scene with a teleporter device where, again, she's depowered, which transitions to her first action scene with powers where she's flying in space. Great stuff. Then we have the first fight with the brigands where Supergirl's poisoned and kind of all over the place while Lobo's throwing weapons and Kara's trying to save the innocents. And then finally our final action set piece where Lobo again fucks everything up and the brigand ship crashes. There's then a whole fight on the desert landscape with Mad Max-esque vehicles and weapons and dust flying everywhere, and I freaking loved it. Again, it's very different from Superman. The action was awesome.
Yeah, with Supergirl, it's just full-on chaos, and I love it. It's just a whole myriad of things just happening on screen, but it just makes sense for her character.
The way Supergirl moves as well, she's more ferocious than Superman, and she uses her heat vision much more, which looks fantastic. The heat vision in this looks sublime.
It looks like something out of Dragon Ball. It's super cool.
Yeah, I think that speaks to Kara as an angrier character as well. There's a brilliant scene where Kara, just after a huge battle, flies out of the atmosphere just to scream. She literally just lets out all of her anger for just a moment and then comes straight back down and gets on with it. And I think that's so perfect because that's what women do every day. How many times have we seen our mums or teachers or just women in our lives juggle 1,000 impossible tasks and not have a real chance to truly digest how stressed and overworked they are? I love that Kara just gives herself a moment to let it out and then is like, right, I've got a job to do. so badass, but also so relatable.
Another really cool thing as well that happens in the movie where Kara gets ejected into space. She's just hurtling towards space as the sun rises over this planet, and we see her powers kick in. I really like that scene.
Yeah, I think because in those early scenes, she hasn't been exposed to the yellow sun yet, there's a really nice timer in that action scene on the bus. She's doing fine. I mean, she can still fight without her powers, but she doesn't necessarily have, like, in her first fight, she kind of like swings herself over a horse and uses like the momentum to kind of kick a guy bigger than her, but she's very much losing that fight. And then the other fight is 3 against 1, and she's got the teleporter that she doesn't really know how to use. And it's great that she's using her wits and she's smart. They show that she's not incapable without it, but that moment where the sun finally hits, and especially with the heat vision, I think is like such a great we're back kind of moment. But I think both this and Superman do a really good job of showing Kryptonian vulnerability without it just being like kryptonite. Both Supergirl and Superman have one moment where kryptonite's used, but it isn't the be-all end-all. There are many threats that challenge them physically and mentally.
Yeah, I think another layer to that vulnerability is she wants to improve on herself and not party anymore. I think that would be a really interesting development to see how she works as Superman.
Yeah, and the film is pretty well paced as well. Like the way that it goes in and out of the action, I think it could do with a few more slower scenes, as we touched on earlier, but it doesn't feel too long. The plot, I think, is mostly well structured, and the writing is genuinely pretty good. The film is written by Ana Nogueira, who is going to be doing a lot for the DCU moving forward. So currently, she's also attached to write Teen Titans and Wonder Woman, and based off Supergirl, I'm fairly confident that she's a good choice. The problem with Supergirl largely is the edit. It's not the writing. It's a lot of great stuff, and I think this kind of story, the grit of it, the trauma and the rough edges of the characters work well. I can't believe it has the guts to tackle a subject so real and so upsetting as child trafficking and sexual assault. That is not in the comic, let me tell you, and I think that it's a really powerful thing to get into. And I think that what we see in the writing of this will work well for Wonder Woman and Titans. Titans will be a team movie, and I'm definitely unsure about Nogueira writing for a team movie, but as long as all these films that she writes do feel different from each other, I say we see what she's got.
Let her cook. I think she will make some really impactful storylines throughout DC and very significant stories that we want to see. But and also, I'm really glad that Man of Tomorrow is going to also focus on Supergirl as well. So there's something, maybe we get to see something, from this movie to here as an arc.
It's really exciting, and I've said this so many times about Marvel, but even if you've got a flop or a failure, you've got to commit. If you're a cinematic universe, you've got to commit. Can you imagine where we would be if Marvel hadn't just sidelined the Eternals after one film?
Ooh.
It's been 6 years and they haven't even been mentioned apart from one brief thing in Captain America. It's so obviously reactionary, but we know that Supergirl is in Man of Tomorrow. We know that she's going to have a role in the next DCU film after that, which is fantastic. Again, it's sticking to the plan, and I think that's brilliant. Now, in terms of this film, the bad reviews, it's just a bit silly. For example, CinemaScore has this film as a B-, which doesn't sound too bad, but apparently that's lower than every DCEU film. So, if we're saying that Supergirl is worse than Suicide Squad, Justice League, The Flash, Shazam 2, Aquaman 2, Black Adam, and Wonder Woman 84, I'm sorry, but we've left the realm of credibility. People are exaggerating. It's almost like a parody in the way people are blindly hating on Supergirl.
And there's people that are spreading misinformation. There's one Reddit post, you might have seen this, where there's a person who says, I'm going to see this screening of Supergirl, and the film's being cancelled because there's a low turn-up of people. That's false. Guys, are we that stupid? Are we that stupid to believe that? I'm just mad because people just buy into that, and then there are people being really mean to Millie Alcock as well. Yeah. Like, if you compare it to David Corenswet, those people love him, whereas Millie's just getting so much hate. We need to move on. We need to move on. This is just getting painful.
Even so-called professional critics have commented on Millie Alcock's appearance in their reviews. Are we being serious?
Their reviews.
I think this needs to be discussed by as many people as possible because it's been an issue for years. Now, Warner Brothers executives did say in a statement, quote, "We were surprised by both the ferocity of the backlash and its reach, believing the culture had evolved past that sort of campaign," unquote. And yeah, I thought the same. I thought, surely surely we'd moved on. But no,
It's just so disappointing because people are just reviewing for the wrong kind of reasons.
if you're watching this video and haven't seen Supergirl, I can't stress enough how watching it and making your own opinion on it is
Yes.
the best thing you can do, because the internet is blowing it so out of proportion. And honestly, the decades of misogyny towards women in blockbusters and comic book movies is tiring. Review bombing again, really? Fuck's sake. People, it's like I said earlier, people are acting like this film murdered their dog. It's exhausting. And we have people acting like middling reviews prove that women have no place leading comic book stories. Why don't we look at all the male-led comic book films that are flops? There's tons. And there are tons of successes in the genre led by women. It's a sliding scale. A woman at the forefront doesn't automatically mean that it's bad. And don't tell me, oh, it's not about women, it's just the movie's bad. Oh, really? So why did these comments start when the trailers came out? Or when Millie Alcock was cast? Or during the press for the film? Or the avalanche of one-star reviews on opening day, the vast majority of which were from people who haven't seen it yet? How sad, pathetic, insecure, and lonely do you have to be? I hope this doesn't deter DC from making a Supergirl sequel and from championing women in these spaces. It feels like other franchises like Marvel and Star Wars have done nothing but bow to the online chuds and pivot to making male-centric stories. How are they being rewarded? Films flopping and TV shows that aren't even charting. It's ironic.
It's very, very ironic. And I hope DC doesn't really listen to people because they have a plan. James Gunn and Peter Safran.
Yeah.
I have so much faith in them. They are working so hard to make these possible, and there are just people that blindly hate it. People just need to grow up.
People are saying the DCU is dead. No, it's not. Come
No,
on.
it's not.
This is like calling the MCU dead after the Incredible Hulk or Thor. It doesn't work like that. We've got another film this year. We've got another show literally in a matter of weeks. The first 3 DCU projects have been massively successful. One film with a low box office and split opinions doesn't kill the universe, especially this early on. Now, if Lanterns and Clayface bomb, then we can talk. But like,
Yes.
come on, this isn't the end of it. I hope the DCU does have more successes moving forward, because if all future films do follow the path of Supergirl, all we'll get is Batman and Superman films, and that is just a bit boring.
We don't want that. We want to see more of the DCU. I think that's something to be really excited about for the future. So I'm hoping Lanterns is going to set up the big part of the DCU. So please, just... I know Peacemaker, loads of people didn't like Peacemaker Season 2.
It was reviewed well, it charted. That's the thing that Supergirl doesn't have. And Peter Safran did make a statement about it last weekend. He said, quote, "While Supergirl didn't meet our box office expectations, it's just one component of a broader long-term strategy at DC Studios that we will remain confident in," unquote. And I think this is great. It's really good that we have had a statement, because often it's just radio silence from studios. And I love that they're staying strong and sticking to the plan. The worst thing about the DCU was that they went from plan to plan and just never really stuck to anything. But the DCU has a vision, and I'm really happy they're not diverging from that road right now. Because, things might get a little bit dicey if they continue to have flops. But I think that this film is definitely the unique case because people hate women. So speaking of,
I'm sorry, it's just the way that we just went from there to like, because it's true. It's true. It
is true. There are a couple of things to say in terms of spoilers. I think that one of the big differences from the comic is that Supergirl kills Krem at the end. A lot of people are kind of unsure about that. I think it works. I think for this Supergirl, this is a Supergirl who isn't gonna take the optimistic road. She's not somebody who's gonna leave Krem alive, especially not this Krem, who is a child trafficker and a rapist and pedophile. This Supergirl, I don't think she's going to just let scum like him live. I think it's more about protecting Ruthie and her innocence, and that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, because then that helps to set out Supergirl to be a completely different character to Clark, and she's going to learn so much as Supergirl throughout the DCU. We got more Crypto.
Yeah.
Well, not really, but he just gets poisoned. And
my
then,
sweet child.
It's actually quite sad. But it's actually adorable that we get to see Crypto as a puppy in Argo City as well.
Oh, yeah.
I was worried that they were going to kill off Crypto in this film. I think the movie could have done something to build up the stakes a bit more.
I agree with you. They go back to Crypto. And my thought is, how did they get back? Did Supergirl fly and then they took the bus again? It's really a question of, like earlier, we don't see Supergirl and Ruthie's first flight. I want to see that journey home. I want to feel like time is running out. I didn't really think that Crypto was going to die. Although I've got a dog and she's very old and she's very struggling. And so the moment at the end when Crypto came back alive, it did hit me because, yeah, like, wouldn't it be nice if every dog could live forever? I loved the opening montage with Supergirl and Crypto. He's a menace.
Absolute menace.
And yet there's such a warmth and tenderness between the two. They love each other. It's different than Clark and Crypto. There's a moment at the end when Clark's like, where's Crypto going to stay? And it's because Clark and Crypto don't get on. Like, even from the very first moment they met, Crypto's like barking at Clark. And I enjoyed that there's a different dynamic here. Kara literally says home is wherever Crypto is. That is all she feels she has left. And part of this film is her realizing, okay, I need to open myself up a little bit more. I thought that was all great. Now, Deadline reported that this film's budget is 175 million, which means it needed around 315 million to break even. Now, compared to some other recent comic book movies that didn't perform super well, it's clear that DC are doing the smart thing and not spending shit tons on a film about a smaller character who won't pull in close to $1 billion at the box office. According to The Wrap, Warner Brothers is considering any global box office return above 300 million as a victory. And obviously, it's bombed. Global opening weekend, it only made $62 million worldwide. That is pretty abysmal. There's no two ways around it. I mean, that's a lower opening than fucking Morbius. And let me say, this film is undoubtedly better. A lot better than that one.
It's a masterpiece compared to Morbius.
Yes, exactly. And it was never going to do Superman numbers, and that's all right. But it does suck that it's not well enough. And oh boy, I can't wait for all the chuds to use this as proof that it sucks. At least the budget isn't too big. It won't be as much of a failure as something like The Flash, but yeah, this stings. It doesn't deserve this. The Wrap has now said that it's likely to end its theatrical run with about 200 million, which isn't the victory that Warner Brothers would have wanted, and reports say that DC could lose between 85 and 120 million, which is not good. Maybe Clayface, which reportedly has a budget less than 50 million, can make enough profit to cover Supergirl's losses. If Clayface makes a big profit, I think it'll do better than this film.
Yeah.
It's in October, not got a lot of competition right now. It's Batman adjacent, tiny budget. I think it will absolutely make the 120 million that they need to cover Supergirl's losses. But even so, this is one of the least deserving superhero flops that I've ever seen.
Yeah, when you look back at the bad superhero movies that we've done in the past. The Spun films, it's just mind-blowing that these films are rated on the same level as Supergirl. Are we seeing the same thing?
I think, unfortunately, the intense level of vitriol, the hatefulness of the rhetoric surrounding this film has been so oppressive that, yeah, I do think that this film just ultimately didn't have a chance. We're DC fans. We've been through the trenches. You think Supergirl can rattle us? Come on. Come on. You weren't
guys.
there in 2023. That was a dark year.
Wow.
But onwards and upwards, as ever. What are you going to give Supergirl out of 10?
A 7 out of 10?
Me too. Look at that.
Please do see it. Have your opinion.
I can unfortunately see this hitting streaming and people watching it and being like, oh my God, this isn't nearly as bad as people said. And it's like, yep. Yeah, tale as old a time, that one. Thank you, everybody, for listening. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you're coming from. Give it a like, give us a follow, 5-star review if you think we're worthy.
Yeah, so you can follow us on Instagram at Out of Time Film Pod to see our incredible thumbnails from Zain, on Twitter for more thoughts from Tom and me, and TikTok to see edited clips, which are all also on Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts. And you can find links to that all in the description below. Thanks to Elle for the excellent theme, and Ronan for logos as always. And I think that's everything. Take away given.
Give nothing back.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.